Hello and welcome. You have tuned into Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now. I'm Shrishti Sharma and with me Cheryl D'Souza. And viewers, this is the show where you get answers for all your stock-related queries. In a short while from now, we will connect with our experts to help your stock queries resolved by them. But before that, let's have a look at what the markets are up to. So Cheryl, markets are clearly matching the color of your red, trading in the red right now.
Absolutely, Shrishti. I was just hoping that you will not point out to that. But yes, the markets have actually drifted lower. As we speak, it is near the day's lowest point when it comes to the benchmark indices, as you can see on your screen below, that 70,800 mark as well. But talking about what the rest of the market is doing is Nifty Bank, that's taking a sharper knock, at least 18% down to coming in for Nifty Bank at the day's lowest point. Let's take a look at what the broader markets are doing, because they were holding on to some gains. There you go, broader markets also slipping with the rest of the markets. You have small cap index, hopefully that's in the that's seeing a shade of green, but yes, that one also is drifting lower. If you look at the advanced decline ratio just a few minutes ago, that one has tilted in the favor of the declines as we speak. So yes, you have the market breadth also looking a tad bit weak at this point in time. Talking about the list of gainers, then the pharma pack is definitely seeing a very healthy run today. So you have Cipla as the top gainer on the Nifty, followed by Dr. Reddy's. Along with that, you also have Sun Pharma that is seeing good strength. So they are the top three gainers on the Nifty at this point in time. Apart from those counters, you have Hindalco and Tata Motors also that's seeing good strength. But on the flip side, Bajaj Finance that continues to fall, 1.5% downtick coming in for Bajaj Finance, reacting to those earnings that came yesterday. You have Power Grid, Bajaj Finserv, HDFC Bank as well as Axis Bank that are declining, and no doubt that's one of the reasons why you're seeing that downtick on Nifty Bank as well. Talking about the sectoral indices, then looking at the list of the gainers, it is actually suffice to say there's a pharma index that is the top sectoral gainer at this point in time, followed by metal index. Auto index also seeing some sort of a strength. But on the flip side, it is the realty index, the PSU banking index, as well as the power index that are seeing some subdued moves. So that's the way how the markets are looking like at this point in time. Shrishti, yes, we are drifting lower as we speak.
Okay, but with this, viewers, let's kickstart taking all your stock-related queries in the show. Remember that you can connect live with us on the WhatsApp number that will be flashing on the top of your screen. And you can also write to us live on our Twitter as well as Facebook pages, and we'll try to get as many queries as possible to be answered by our experts. But for this, let me welcome on board two of our very special guests, Kunal Bothra on the technical side and Sharmila Joshi also joining us today on the show to guide you fundamentally. So let's start taking your queries then, and the first query that I have, Kunal, is for you. One of your fans named Vivek from Kerala wants to know that Tata Communications, Britannia and SW Solar, any of the three names that you like at this point in time, where he can go ahead and add this in his portfolio with the next 3 to 5 years time horizon.
Well, nothing major as such. I think all three of these stocks are actually going into a corrective phase. Tata Communication also, I think, has gone through a correction. Now, the concern for all three of the names, specifically for Tata Communications as well as Britannia, is that these stocks are trading below their 50-day moving averages, respectively. I think, if I'm not wrong, even Britannia is below its 100-day moving average. The bigger concern is the third stock, which you said, SW Solar. I think, if I'm not wrong, the stock is now trading at a 52-week low of sorts at 267 to 68 odd levels. So that's again a very weak kind of a chart. I would suggest to just stay away from these names as of now. There are far more better bets if you're looking at from the broader markets, and I would believe concentrate on there. Some of the names, for example, L&T Finance looks interesting even at current levels. You can look out for City Union Bank at current levels. So these are few alternate options which you can consider at current levels.
Right, another one also coming your way, Kunal, actually. And just a quick note for all of our viewers. Yes, we've begun with the query segment first up on the show, because we will be connecting with the management of Happiest Minds later on in the show as well. But this one is for you, Kunal, from Sunny. And he wants to know about L&T Tech, whether he should go ahead and book profits in this particular counter. We know that the company has come out with the earnings yesterday. They revised their guidance lower as well. So that's one of the reasons why the stock is taking a sharp knock. And Sunny is already in profits in this one. And he wants to know, one, he should book profit in LTTS and look to buy some quantity of ethos in his portfolio.
So for the first one, yes, you can consider booking profits on L&T Tech. I think that's a stock which has actually shown a double top formation on the daily chart. So today's gap down could probably be an indication that maybe a near-term resistance is now at play for L&T Tech. So it could be a good time that you can look to book profits. And in case if the stock corrects by say another 400 points, coming closer to 4,000 levels, that could be a good zone where you may look to reaccumulate the stock price. On the other hand, ethos is more of a stable chart. It's come back towards its 50-day moving average at current levels of 1660 from a recent high of 1800 plus. So you can start looking to invest into this name, but again, do it more of a staggered basis for ethos.
Okay, moving on to the next query then. And Sharmila, this query is from Aditya, and he says that he has bought shares of JK Paper 7500 in quantity at a price of 315 rupees. What to do in this particular counter as the stock has been not showing great momentum?
Well, in terms of earnings and valuation, it looks reasonable. I think the call that you need to take probably is that outlook for the paper industry, and that I think is a little bit mixed. So probably, it's not going to be one of those high momentum plays unless you really see mid caps as a entirely sort of big momentum, and you do see that if when markets start moving. But overall, I think within the paper sector, given the kind of verticals they have, the kind of expansion they did even during the pandemic, they kind of held their own in terms of numbers because a lot of paper stocks had really done very badly during the pandemic when people weren't using as much paper. But things are they sort of held their own. So I like this stock. But as I said, it's not really one of those stocks which I expect to go up in a hurry. But I have valuation comfort at this level.
All right, the next query that I have is coming in from Satya, and he wants to know, actually he wrote a query on Monday, he's yet to write his today's query, so let me give him the time to actually write his query then, and this one is coming in from B. Santosh from Hyderabad. Goldime International, Kunal, I'm not sure if you tracked this one, but he's already purchased this at a price of 130 rupees per share. He's saying he's a huge fan of yours and also he's a short-term investor. So what should he do with this particular counter given the fact that it is tad bit above his buy price, but yes, the stock is being subdued?
Well, thank you so much for that. First of all, would recommend not to look at these kind of names because it's extremely volatile. In fact, from 2020 lows, remember the stock was at 15-16 rupees, moved up to 220-230 mark, and from that 220 to 230 levels in 2021 end, the stock had been just trading into a corrective zone. So even the daily volumes, for example, today for the stock is extremely low, and for a 130 rupee stock, a volume of 50,000, 60,000 could be considered to be a lot more illiquid. I would suggest that if you're making slight profits, good time to get out of the stock and look at some other quality large cap name.
Okay, moving on, and Sharmila, coming to you for the next query. Actually, this query was for Kunal, but I would like to take your take on this one. The query is on LTTS, the stock which is drifting lower after the guidance cut by the management. And Kamal from Pune wants to know a good entry price in this particular stock as well as the medium-term outlook on the same.
So I like I'm comfortable with it even at this price. So I think probably for entry level, you should check with Kunal because, I think that would be more of a technical view. Because the stock has corrected from its highs and we are seeing a sort of not the best quarter, let's just say, for, this space. So from that perspective, the price that it has, perhaps it can correct a little more. I think even today it's down about 4%. So you could see it correct more. But overall, I think if you are a longer term investor, this is a stock that I would be comfortable holding.
All right, this was a query, rather it's a repeat query. We had the viewer write to us yesterday and he really insisted on a short-term answer on this one. And this one is from Ramesh from Kolkata and he has 500 shares of Shankar Bilcon. Kunal, he purchased at the level of 780 rupees per share. On the charts is what he wants to understand. How is the stock looking? Because if you look at the stock even today, it's actually trading with very low volumes, isn't it?
Yeah, low volumes for the stock, but it's not a very negative kind of a chart. The stock, in the last 1 or 2 weeks has shown that strength of at least trying to make a comeback of sorts. So from 700 or sub 700 levels, the stock had come very close to that 800 mark, retraced or retested the 50-day moving average. Now going into a mild correction the last 2 days. I believe that this correction may extend for another 2 days for the stock price. Maybe it could come back towards 735, 745 kind of a range. But with this recent retest of the 50-day moving average, the stock would probably try and make an attempt back again to retest the 50 DMA. That should be closer to 800 levels. So ideally, if you're looking at an exit point for the stock, I think 795, 800 could be a possible entry point in the next couple of weeks for the stock.
Okay, Kunal, one more query your way. This one is from Shiva from Chennai, and he's holding 4,000 shares of Samvardhana Medicine from a price of 98 rupees. Wants to know the short-term outlook, maybe for the next 3 to 6 months on this name.
See, for the next 3 to 6 months, I'm not extremely gung-ho on the stock price, because after a steep uptrend from 65 rupees to 100 in the last 6 odd months, I think from the March lows, the stock is bound to get into a time-wise consolidation. And my sense is that the consolidation may continue for at least another 2 or 3 months for the stock price. So if you are in from a very short-term time frame, I would suggest that you can look to exit the stock price. But if you can extend your time horizon to maybe another 1.5 odd year, then I would believe that the stock has the potential to cross the levels of 100 plus and then eventually get into a further breakout. So that's the tweak which you would require to hold on to the stock.
All right, this next one is coming in from Narsimha Murthy, who's retired personnel from Pondicherry, and he wants to know whether he can look to hold on to LTIM, that LTI Mindtree, about 10 shares at a price of 5,162 rupees is what he has purchased, Sharmila, for the medium term. Say for the next 2 quarters or so. Do you think it makes sense to stay put with this one? No doubt LTI Mindtree is all set to report its quarterly earnings today, so maybe a lot may depend on that, isn't it?
Oh, well, honestly, I think if you are a longer term investor, then, as this quarter results are sort of in a way discounted, because we've already got a sort of a teaser from TCS Infosys, who already declared numbers, ATTS, which we were talking of a little while earlier. But yes, I think wait for the results and then take a call. But overall, this is a stock which I really liked for a long period of time. And I've had recommendations on this from around 3,000 levels. So I'm it's been a stock that I've recommended for the long term and continue to do so.
Okay, but another result candidate for today, Kunal, is Wipro, and the query is from Bharat, and he says he's holding 15 shares at a price of 435 rupees. Any prospects of this going up in the future? What's the outlook on this?
Well, it all depends on when the larger cap IT names they start to perform, the likes of TCS, Infosys. I think if I'm not wrong, Wipro is yet to come out with the results, so the stock price reaction could be weighted on the stock price. But looking at the reaction for TCS, Infosys, and few of the other mid cap IT names, I believe that there could be a scope of disappointment for the stock price trends, and I think in that aspect you may see the stock dragging a bit more from current levels.
Right. This next one is actually coming in from one of our viewers. I think it was Pandurang Rao. I'm actually missed the query, but he asked the query actually on coming in on Geo Financials. Actually, he wanted to know whether he should look to buy this particular counter at current levels, or rather he wants to know the entry level. Yeah, it's Pandurang Rao who's asked this query. Firstly, let me try my luck with Kunal, given the fact that Geo Finance is a brand new listed entity. Would you be able to give a level at one which can look to enter this counter?
Not really.
Not really, okay. So, which means that policy of new IPO coverage, definitely you cannot ask Kunal on that. But Sharmila, what's your take coming in on Geo Financial? Do you think now is the right time to look at buying this particular counter, given the fact that the listing was not great, the stock has been subdued, did try to make some recovery, but do you think now is the right time to bet on a franchise like Geo Financial?
I think so, especially if you're...
I think we've just lost that connection with Sharmila, but we will get back and try and get her view on Geo Financial. So let me take the next one then, which is hitting my message. And this one is coming from Mevin. He's writing to us from Kerala. And he's holding BLS International, but 250 shares at an average price of 268 rupees per share. I would like your view on that as well, Sharmila. But before you talk about BLS International, I like your view on Geo Financial. We lost you there.
Well, I said I like the stock, and I think that the listing was a little rocky, and we saw it hit lower circuits, etc. But my sense was that you need to let it be listed for a while, allow a couple of earnings to come in, get a sense of what kind of future plans they have in place, and then buy. I have no problems with it, with the name and with the kind of business that they plan to have, get into, etc. So I think now is as a good time as any, and of course, a staggered buying is recommended. Coming to BLS International, I think that I believe was the second query, right?
That was a query. BLS International buy price is 268 and the amount of shares that he has in portfolio is 250.
So this is actually a stock that I like because given the nature of the business that they're in and where we are seeing travel etc. go, but in terms of earnings, they've been a little muted, and in that perspective, valuations look a little high. So your holding period could be longer, but if you have the patience, I think continue to.
Okay, so that's the take coming in on BLS International. But with this, viewers, it's time to slip into a very short break in this edition of Buy Now Sell Now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now Sell Now on ET Now, and yes, how can we not mark the markets, because sharp fall coming in the markets as we speak. 0.5% gone for the Nifty from the day's highest point. Let's take a look at what Nifty Bank is doing, because remember that one was underperforming the benchmark indices, continues to do so. 1% downtick coming in for Nifty Bank. PSU Bank Index, that's where the hit is more stronger, more sharper when it comes to the PSU Bank Index. So yes, 1.2% downtick coming in for the PSU Bank Index, and markets are pretty subdued, with the Nifty Bank actually falling 1% from the day's highest point. So that's the way how the markets are looking like at this point in time. Shrishti, weak footing for the markets.
Well, yes, a sharp knock for the benchmark indices, at least for now. But with this, let's continue taking all your stock-related queries and getting back with that. Kunal, the next query is from R. Dubey from London, and he wants your advice on two counters. Firstly is Godfrey Phillips. He's holding 200 shares from a price of 2,280 rupees. And he also has Cochin Shipyard, bought 200 shares at a price of 1,068 rupees. What's the outlook on both of these? He's at a mild loss, but wants to know the short-term outlook on these names.
See, Cochin Shipyard, I think I would believe that maybe the best of the gains for the stock is behind us. Because of the way the stock has run up exceedingly high, almost 100% up so far this year. Even the previous year, the stock had moved up from 350 to I think 550 levels on closing basis. So I think it's done exceptionally well over the last 2 years, and there's bound to be a point where the stock may get into a time-wise correction. The last 2-3 months of charts are also indicative that the stock is actually going through that time-wise correction. I would suggest that if you get this closer to your cost price, it could be a good time to exit the stock, because buying the stock at a apt price is the most important point when you're looking at riding the trends, even if it's a short-term play, which I believe is not the case for Cochin Shipyard. Godfrey Phillips, on the other hand, I would suggest a hold on the stock price, because I'm bullish on Godfrey Phillips, ITC, and many of the other names like in this category. Godfrey Phillips has a very interesting quality of the stock getting into a time-wise correction for a span of 3-4 months and then moving up higher suddenly. So I think in that aspect, the stock is just about completing its 2-3 months of time-wise correction. So hopefully in the next 1 or 2 months, we may expect a breakout for Godfrey Phillips.
Okay, moving on to the next query then. And the next query that I have is coming on Birlasoft. From the IT space, Sharmila, we have been seeing that this particular counter has seen a phenomenal run-up, and Venkat Ramna from Hyderabad is holding 30 shares from an average price of 283 rupees, sitting at great gains in this one. Can he add more at current market price, or would you advise to book out profits in this one?
A great level to buy. I remember, when the stock was at this level, that was my sense too, that it's a great level to buy. I may have recommended it also. Because even if you because you had seen IT undergoing a correction, and the PE correction was also there, but in spite of that, I think given the verticals that they were in, as well as the businesses that they were in, 400, 450 looked like a good price. Now it's gone even beyond that. So while I wouldn't recommend him to sell, I think he can stay invested, but definitely don't add more.
Not to add more, but recommend to sell. But the next query that I have is for you, Kunal. The viewer didn't share his name, but wants to know, is this a good time to enter BEL for a short-term prospect? His name is Jay Brahmanan.
So yeah, I think you can look to consider buying BEL. Maybe 135 could be a slight better level in terms of price points. So that would be another 1.5% lower from current levels for BEL. That's a major support zone from a short-term play. But on the other hand, your targets also have to be a bit more restricted because the stock is going through time-wise correction and it's meandering into a range of 135 as a support and 140, 141 as a resistance. So all you are looking out for to play is the 6 rupee, 7 rupee band for BEL. So keep that in mind, and yeah, I think 135 could be a better level to enter.
Alright, let me just quickly mark the flashes on the bottom of your screen because there is a government notification that's come about and where they are saying they're extending the date of restriction on export of raw sugar, white sugar, refined sugar as well as organic sugar under some codes beyond October 31st, and this extension on the export restriction will be until further order. So yes, let's see how the sugar stocks are actually reacting to this particular development. The fact that there is going to be restriction on the export of sugars for at least until further notice is what the government notification is stating. They're saying that it is going to extend beyond October 31st until further notice. Key to watch out for all of these sugar names like Balrampur Chini, Sri Renuka, Triveni Engineering. All of these counters will be in focus on back of this particular announcement coming in from the government. So there you go. The stocks are actually reacting to this particular news right now. But let's move on. Let me continue taking your queries then. And the next query that I have is coming in from one of our viewers. Oh, sorry, Satya. Finally, he's written his query. And Kunal, this one is for you. He wants to know about some mid-cap or small-cap pharma companies that are looking attractive. Would Indico, Remedies and FDC make the cut in your list? Or is there some other mid or small-cap pharma companies that you think will still make some good gains going ahead?
Yeah, Indigo Remedies is something which looks attractive. Granules is something which I'm bullish on at 350 odd levels. That's a stock which I've been highlighting many a times. So that's also an attractive chart. You can still look out for Glenmark Pharma. I think the stock had this odd phase of correction around 770 or 760 to be precise. So that's a good zone to try and buy the stock. Time and again, it's tested this support level and it's managed to bounce back, which means closer to 760 odd levels is where could be a good entry point for Glenmark Pharma. So you can consider these few names.
Okay, moving on to the next one. And Sharmila, this question is from Sanjay Kumar, and he's holding 300 shares of GMDC, but at a price of 79 rupees. We have seen great moves in this particular counter, and he can continue holding this one for the next 2 quarters as well. So, given the run up, what is your outlook for further return potential, and should he continue to hold on?
Given the fact he bought it at such an attractive price, I don't really see why he should sell, especially if he says he can continue to hold. This stock has just, I think, maybe in the last 15-20 days seen good amount of movement, and maybe there is something happening there. One doesn't know. But given its earning valuation seem a tad high, but as I said, he's bought it at a very much lower price. I think yes, he just continues to hold and keeps tracking the stock actively because it has been a very fast mover.
All right. The next query that I have is coming in from Lakshmi, who is a senior citizen, and she wants to know about Bank of Baroda, South Indian Bank, Bandhan Bank, or even for the matter of fact, Bank of Maharashtra. Are these good companies for an investment purpose? So what's your take on this, Sharmila? I believe she wanted Kunal's view on it, but the fact that she's used the word investment, I would like to take your view on this, Sharmila.
I think out of all states, I like Bank of Baroda the best. But their commentary was a little muted, so you're seeing a correction in the price. But if you're talking of investment and long term, I think Bank of Baroda is the best. Bank of Maharashtra had very interesting numbers. So, but I would expect some kind of consolidation to happen in the smaller PSU banks. What were the other two banks? One was Bandhan Bank and the other was?
It was South Indian Bank, Bandhan Bank, South Indian Bank from the private sector play, and then Bank of Maharashtra BOB.
Yeah, so I think the three banks that I would really look at seriously would be Bank of Baroda, South Indian Bank, and Bandhan Bank. But as I said, Bank of Baroda would be my preferred.
We're talking about banking space, then Gayatri also has a query on two banking names. Firstly was Bank of Maharashtra. You already answered the same, but she also wants an advice on Indian Bank. Is this a good time to buy this particular bank?
To buy, she wants to enter it.
A fresh in Indian Bank.
Okay. Let me take a quick look. Yes, I think you can. You may need to be a little patient. But yes, I think you can take a fresh entry into India.
All right, on that note, we slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. When we come back, we will discuss about some more stock-related queries, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now, a show where we get you answers for all of our stock-related queries. Just for further clarification for all of our viewers, just so that you have no doubts, when you ask a technical query or a query to Kunal, it should either be a short to medium term query, because in that way he has that much of chart history that he can help you out to invest and to make better decision when it comes to short to medium term, not so much for the longer term. But fundamentals are where all your long-term queries will be taken. Right now, I'll make an exception for Vijay, who's writing to us from Bangalore. He's saying he's a long-term investor, wants a long-term investment idea, and the stock that Kunal he's invested in is Imagica, 500 shares at a price of 59. Now he wants to know whether he should buy some more at this rate. The caveat here, he's a long-term investor.
Well, I would not suggest at current levels if you're looking to buy, because what has actually happened is on the quarterly charts, the stock has run up exceedingly high. I think from 2019 lows of 3 rupees or 4 rupees for the stock went up to as high as 65, and the indicators were extremely overbought. Now, what could probably happen, according to the chart structure, is the stock may get into a correction which may extend for at least another 6 months, and I think the stock should come back towards 40 levels or maybe slightly below. So if you're looking at a better buy zone, then you can consider buying the stock at sub 40 levels if you're a long-term investor.
Okay, moving on to the next query then, and Kunal, one more query your way. This one is from Parvinder Singh, and he wants your advice on Polyplex. He's been holding 45 shares, but from a price of 1680 rupees, can hold for the next 6 months as well. So any outlook on this one?
Well, I would not suggest an add on the stock price. You can maybe continue to hold on. And the only reason for suggesting a hold for Polyplex is since 2023, the stock has halted the sharp correction. So 2023 start, the stock formed a low of 1200, 1100 approximately. Even at current levels, the stock is between the span of 1100 to 1200. So there have been multiple attempts towards this major support point, but it's actually acted as a support, and the stock has seen a demand from those levels. So what I would suggest is keep a stop loss of say 1100 on closing basis, on weekly closing basis, and continue to hold on.
Okay, this one is from Mr. Srinivas, who is a senior citizen. He has Orient Cements at a price of 165 rupees per share. He wants to know what should he do. He has a 6-month time horizon, but Sharmila, given the fact that today's news flow that you've got from Orient Cement, given the fact that they are in talks with various entities in order for a stake sale, I would like to take a longer term view from you for Orient Cement. In case this happens, or since it's just talks right now, what should one do with Orient Cement? Stay put with it, given that there is news flow that may support the stock price, or do you think right now also you can look to exit this particular counter because the viewer is making good profits?
Well, from a valuation perspective, it is looking expensive. But if there is news flow, then maybe you could, just wait a bit, because you will hear sooner or later, if you keep tracking the stock. And as you said, the buying level is good. And overall, it's a decent stock. So even in that way, I'm not really concerned. But for a fresh buy, it's a no.
Okay, moving on. And Sharmila, what's your take on Triveni Turbines? Debashish Das has been holding 100 shares from a price of 414 rupees. What's the outlook on this one? Should he continue to hold on?
Well, the earnings were a little soft, but yes, I think you can continue.
All right, this next one is coming in from our viewer, that is Krishna from Bangalore, who is a senior citizen as well, Kunal, and he wants to know if it's right time to enter KEC International as well as Poonawalla FinCorp for a period of 3 months only.
Well, yeah, I think both are good stocks to have as part of your portfolio. KEC has been a phenomenal mover. I remember, I think, tracking the stock when it was almost at 130, 40 many years back to now 600, 700 plus levels where the stock is trading. I think it's a phenomenal stock and has proven its worth over the last many years. You can keep it as a part of your portfolio. I'm not sure whether 6 months could be an adequate time horizon for the stock price. Even for Poonawalla FinCorp, I think it's an exceptional stock. Yes, it's gone through a short-term concern in terms of the price trends from 400, 20, 30 levels. It's corrected towards 375, 380 mark. But on the short-term charts, it's looking like the stock is coming back towards a major support zone. The demands for the stock at current levels is pretty much high. So the stock may stabilize at current levels, but as I said, maybe 6 months may not be a great time horizon for both of these names.
Okay, Kunal, Madhuri wants to know short-term prospects for two paper counters. Firstly is West Coast Paper and the other one is Star Papers.
Well, West Coast Paper is something which I would recommend out of the two names which you mentioned. It's a quality kind of a stock. It's gone through a very rough phase. I think in 2022, if I'm not wrong, or 2022 and 23, where the stock had corrected from 670 levels to as much as 480, 475, and then from there it's made a phenomenal comeback. So would be bullish on West Coast Paper because I track that stock very closely.
All right, hang in there, experts. We'll actually slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. When we come back, we'll try and take some more queries. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Buy Now, Sell Now on ET Now, and let's continue with taking your queries then. And this one is coming from Kiran, who's writing to us from Pune, and she wants a technical view, Kunal, on Equitas. I think Equitas Bank, so it will be Equitas Small Finance Bank, Bank of India, IDFC First Bank. Out of these three, you can talk about the ones that you want to talk about first, and wants to know that whether it should buy these stocks at current levels and hold it for the next 3 to 6 months, or what sort of a level should one eye?
So I'll pick up two names which I do track very closely: Equitas Bank as well as IDFC First Bank. I think IDFC First Bank, we've been discussing time and again that it's a phenomenal stock and has managed to come back towards a big breakout mode. So I think on the quarterly charts as well as on the longer term basis, looks very attractive. You can stay put. Equitas Bank on the other hand, I think also has been an exceptional mover. From 40 rupees, the stock is almost at 9800 levels. It's made a fresh swing high for itself. Looks very attractive. You can consider buying this as well.
Okay, that's the take coming in on Equitas Small Finance Bank. But with this, let's also shift focus to some of the earnings then. And we're going to be talking about Happiest Minds. And we are being joined by Venkatramana Narayan, Managing Director and CFO of the company, as well as Joseph, who is the Executive Vice Chairman of Happiest Minds, is also joining us. A very good morning, gentlemen. And thank you so much for your time to ET Now. Venkat, coming to you for the first query, the main concern is on the guidance because you have cut your earlier 25% growth guidance. Now, this is on the account of the acquisition delay, or you have cut your organic growth guidance as well?
So, firstly, a decent quarter. We've shown growth of about 3.6% in constant currency. And for the half year, that's about 12.7% year-over-year growth in constant currency. So a decent quarter, but however, taking into mind the current situation in the markets that we operate in, we took a deep dive into how the guidance for the rest of the year should be. As you know, we had made a guidance of 25% at the start of the year, which was, we had not made a distinction between organic and inorganic in that. So we were pursuing one large acquisition and a couple of other ones. And as we stand today, there is a delay in the larger one that we were thinking and talking about. So to that extent, we had to revise that guidance. So now what we've done is, for the rest of the year, we are guiding for a growth of 12% for the year on an organic basis. And if the acquisitions that we are talking about materialize, that will be in addition to what we are saying of 12%. While we talk about revenue guidance, we have not made any change to our EBITDA guidance. We are holding on to the 22 to 24% on that one for the rest of the year.
Well, thank you so much for that understanding, Joseph. But just to follow up, so when will these acquisitions fructify? Any timeline that you can share with us that these acquisitions will help your numbers, and which areas are you looking at adding capabilities in?
Yeah. So, what I would say about acquisitions is that they tend to be binary. Either you close them or you don't close them, right? And right now we are in, as Venkat mentioned, we are in discussion with a few candidates, and we want to make sure that we take the right decision, looking at the various criteria that we have, which I'll get into in a minute, and looking at the cultural aspects and making sure it's a company that is in the digital space. That's not a turnaround kind of story, and aligns with the kind of culture that we have. So those are base criteria that we have. But having said that, there are 3, 4 other criteria that we're laying out. One is to look at it from a market perspective, and as we discussed earlier, we are in the process of building deeper domain capabilities and moving from a technology-oriented company to a company that has domain and vertical capabilities that can help customers and consult customers on upstream opportunities. And so we're looking at that. We have a few sub-segments in our chosen domains that we've identified where we would like to build deeper depth and get more customer case points. So that's one area that we are looking at. For instance, in insurance, or if you look at in healthcare, medical devices, maybe. So a few such areas that we've identified. Now, again, if you look at it from a technology perspective, we do have depth in quite a few digital areas and digital technologies. But within those technologies, like if you take the low code, no code area, there are several platforms, and we've identified a couple of platforms that we think would get us better traction in the market. So if you find somebody, a customer that's focused on one of those platforms, or in the AI space, there are a few platforms, or in the data area that are doing really well, like for example, Snowflake. We do have a few customers, but if you could get more critical mass and depth, that would really help us. The third area we are looking at is getting into either building more business in some of the geos where we don't have as much presence, like let's say Europe or ANZ, or even get us into accounts that we have on our list as named accounts. So these are all criteria that we have when evaluating candidates.
Right, very good morning to you, gentlemen. This is Cheryl also joining in the conversation. Joseph, let me actually come to you, and if you could tell us how are the client conversations actually shaping up. It would be great if you could give us your assessment on various verticals like digital and high tech. And why am I asking about these verticals is because peers have actually pointed out to weakness, especially in the high tech business.
So I'll probably take that, being more a little bit closer to the market out here. And if you look at our results for Q2 as well, you would see that there are a few verticals that have done well, and there are a couple that have been a little behind. EdTech's been going through its own challenges, but what we've seen is that given our depth, and it's not an area where too many companies have depth, and it's one of our largest verticals. For other companies, it would be like 2, 3, 4% of the revenues. For us, it's almost 20, 25%. So we build depth, and even though there are some challenges in this vertical, we're able to acquire customers and expand, within the existing customer base, and that's grown quite well, as you would see from our results. You spoke specifically about high tech, and there I think you got to break it up into startups, late stage startups, mid-sized, and large companies. If you look at the large companies, and we've had quite a few of our wins in the high tech space actually during the quarter, and these are all large companies that have well-defined roadmaps and product strategies. So one of the prestigious wins is one of the largest retailer and hyperscaler, where we're helping them, with your IoT platform, doing some user interface and automation for them, and we see scope to expand out there. We've been able to break through, and we can see scope to expand. I think that's the strategy that we'll have to follow, because in any vertical, if you look at a broad level, there's enough demand for customers to adopt digital technologies and to digital transformation. I think the key is to look at which areas and which companies and which areas that you would focus on out there, to make sure it's something that is a area of need or competitive disadvantage or differentiation where you can contribute. Again, if you look at manufacturing, I think that's an area that's doing well, because most of these companies, they've been a little late to jump onto the digital bandwagon, and they're realizing that there's cost advantage, there's differentiation to be had, and better way to interact with customers. And that's an area that we see growing quite well, especially in India. It's an area where we're having a lot of traction with customers. Another area has been healthcare, which is, in a way, you can say it's a little bit of an evergreen industry. But we do have, we've shown a strong growth in healthcare, and we have a pretty good pipeline of prospects that we are in discussion with from a healthcare standpoint.
Well, thank you so much, Joseph, for such a detailed answer that where the company is looking traction at this point in time. With this, we'll let you go on that. Thank you so much, Joseph and Anthony, for joining us today on ET Now and helping with the growth outlook for the company. So as of now, the company has cut the revenue growth guidance, but has maintained the margin guidance and looking at some acquisitions as well in the healthcare and insurance space. But a cut of 2.5% is what we are seeing. But with this, viewers, it's time to wrap this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now. It's a goodbye from me and Sharon and the entire team who put this show together. Thank you so much for watching.